As Rudy inhaled the last fumes of oxygen from his scuba tank, he gave up hope of surviving. At that very moment, he felt something take hold of his body.
Someone grabbed me from behind and began guiding my body, and that feeling was a feeling of safety, a feeling of being embraced and held and being okay, and I just totally relaxed and went limp, and that someone took me out of the cave.
Suddenly, Rudy found himself in clear water outside the cave entrance with his scuba tank on his back.
Hello everyone, my name is Gus.
Hi, I'm Woody.
And today we'll be reacting to I don't know how to call this thing. I guess a rescue of some kind.
Okay.
Allegedly.
All right.
Cave
rescue?
It's an overhead rescue. These guys got into a pickle, into a tough situation. And this is up your alley. I found this video and
good.
I think this was a recommendation. It wasn't an overwhelming recommendation. I think when I saw it, I was like, I can't believe I haven't seen this one. But when I saw it, I knew this was up your alley.
Wow.
Mainly because of the rescuer.
Yes. I can't wait. I have no idea what he's talking about.
I'm not going to say anything else. Let's just watch.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to It's a Miracle. I'm Richard Thomas.
And I'm Nia Peoples. Tonight you're going to discover that miracles can happen anywhere and everywhere, from the top of a snow-covered mountain
To the bottom of the ocean. And that's where we're headed first. On a diving expedition off the island of Oahu, into deep waters and a dark cave filled with unexpected terror and an even more unexpected miracle.
Wow.
Rudy Smith and his friend Scott Schindler of Hawaii were both professional divers working at a U.S. Navy research laboratory. But their goal on this afternoon was strictly pleasure. They were on a lobster hunt, headed for an underwater cave where Rudy had never failed to find them by the dozen.
Just the two of us went out. We knew what we were going to do. It was short and sweet. We were going to anchor the boat, jump in the water, go down, grab some lobster, come right back out and head back.
Sounds fun.
Because of the short duration of the dive, they each wore partially filled tanks with a limited air supply.
It's a cave?
Well, yeah, it seems like it's a sea cave, but this is just bad. Even if it's a quick dive, starting with partially filled tanks just sounds like a bad idea.
Yes, that was a valid pause. I agree with you.
Yeah.
The tanks had at least enough air to last 20 minutes at the depth we were working.
Wow.
We felt real safe in using those tanks because this is something we'd done before.
The divers paused every 10 or 15 feet to equalize, a process that helped them adapt to the depths. If they stayed down too long, they would have to allow time for similar pauses on the way back up to avoid contracting the bends.
Whenever you dive deep, there's always a risk of the bends, absorbing too much nitrogen in the body. The most serious cases, the body basically explodes from the inside out. You cough up your lungs.
Okay.
The entrance to the cave was very narrow, so one at a time, Rudy and Scott removed their tanks and pushed them down the narrow passageway ahead of them.
No.
If you're going to go anywhere, no mount, where no mount is required. Number one, you should have a fully functional, backup system, right? Two of everything. These guys not only have one, but they have half of it, per their own acknowledgement.
I would add on to that and say, I have no idea if these guys are cave divers because I'm expecting to have seen the normal following the 5 rules of cave diving, certainly the gear, right? Like 3 lights, cookies, arrows, cutters. Half a tank, we would never go in a cave. You have part of the 5 rules is proper gas planning.
That's right.
And then no mount would be like for the most advanced cavers that I know in the world, which we both know a few.
Yep.
I've never done no mount cave diving. Okay. So that's already wow.
Yeah. Obviously, this is a reenactment.
My
They don't.
tank,
He didn't need to take that
in
off.
front of me
I
would
get it.
catch on things. My shoulders would bump into the walls. It was just a tight experience, like being pinched for a little bit till you could wiggle through it.
The end of the passageway opened up into a cavern. The divers split up to sweep opposite sides of the lobster-filled cave. If nothing went wrong, Rudy and Scott would have
cave or
10
a cavern?
minutes to choose their lobsters and return to the surface.
I always weigh the benefit against the risk.
Do you?
The perceived benefit of having a bunch of lobster on the grill was much greater than the chance of getting caught in the cave and trapped.
Can you just clarify for me, is it a cave or is it a cavern?
I mean, I don't know. They're calling it cave, cavern, all these
Right.
names. Who knows?
They're mixing this stuff up, so
Yeah.
there's a big difference. We just did a video on it, and there's a big difference in the rules you need to follow. So I
Yeah.
don't know yet how to react because I don't know if they're in a cave, like there's no light there.
Yeah. There was a lot of discussion about that video and why sometimes those discussions are not as relevant. So in this case, for example, technically, let's say that these guys can see the exit. But if that exit was no mount, I think your argument for this being a cavern is out the window.
Yes.
Because if you have an emergency, like, for example, you started with half a tank and now you realize you're low on air and you start panicking and now you have to take your gear off because you have a no mount exit. Dude,
This
the fact that you're in a cavern is irrelevant at
this
that
is
point.
a very, very, very technical dive if
Yeah.
that's what it was that they're describing. Okay.
Right.
I just want to point that out there, just the severity of what they're saying that they were diving.
Yeah, a cave with an easy exit is less complex than a cavern with a no mount exit.
And from what the way he's talking, I guess they went into a no light zone on top of it. So it's a cave with no mount. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a risk I was willing to take.
Wow.
5 minutes into his search, Rudy heard something he will never forget.
I had probably picked up 2 or 3 lobster and put them in my bag when I heard a very distinct voice. And it said 2 words, "Get out."
Rudy looked to his friend to see if he had called out. But Scott was busy collecting lobsters.
I see you looking at me like that. You can hear things and you're sort of talking to yourself. You know what I mean? Like if I hear my thoughts like, Woody, don't do this, or Woody, breathe slowly. I'm sort of hearing myself. I assume that's what he's talking about. We'll keep going.
All right.
I'm just responding to your facial reaction to me. He probably heard.
He made it sound like
I don't know. I'm not at that point yet.
all right.
I had no idea where the words came from, let alone where a voice would come from, and I just disregarded it.
An alarm squeal from his regulator prompted Rudy to look at his watch. He had been in the water for 15 minutes. He still had a minute or two before he and Scott would have to leave.
I started to go back collecting lobster, and as soon as I started back, the voice resonated again. It said, "Get out now."
Right.
Just as clear as if a person were a few feet away from you, speaking very directly, demanding you do something right now.
Before Rudy had a chance to respond, he spotted a figure advancing towards him out of the darkness.
Biggest moray eel I've ever seen. He was 8 to 9 feet long, and his girth was the size of my thigh.
Wow.
That's a very frightening experience to have 8, 9 foot of eel moving directly at your chest.
The eel latched onto Rudy's lobster bag, and the ensuing struggle began to churn up silt
They will.
from the ocean floor.
Oh, yeah.
The cave became one big large cloud of dust. You could not see past your face mask.
Rudy let the eel wrestle the lobster bag away from him, but now he faced a more deadly situation. His air supply was almost gone.
The amazing conclusion when It's a Miracle continues.
And obviously they didn't put line down, right? It's all silted out. So you see, these what I mean by that's why I said, look, if this is a cave and it's a no-mount situation and you silt it out, all bets are off. Everybody can say, well, I'm a calm diver and I know the general direction. And this is where things change. It's very easy to deal with situations in a familiar setting when you're calm.
When everything looks
But when you're
perfect.
freaked out, and I've seen students freak out
Yep.
over the years, and it's a really weird thing. I know we just verbalize it a lot, but honestly, it's like their brain totally turns off. Every single thing you've taught them or are trying to say to them is no longer registering in their brain. They really can't help it, and they freak out.
Yep.
There's no rational movement, no logical thinking. So that's when being inside of a cave and freaking out can kill you.
And we do hear this even on our videos. We see comments, and it's like, how can you tell me that you cannot just go back and navigate by looking at the rocks? Like, I can tell, like, as I'm going in, I can memorize the features of the cave and then turn
No way.
around and look at the rocks and navigate my way back. First of all, I don't think you can do it with perfect visibility. Second of all, this guy just said that he can see in front of his mask. So if you can't even see your hand in front of your mask, how can you look at the rocks that you claim you can memorize, which I'm telling you, on the way back, they all look the same. Doesn't matter how good memory you have.
Even on caves that you and I dive all the time,
1,000 times. Yeah.
I will turn around and I'm like, wait, where's the... So, yes, good point. All right, we're going to keep going. By the way, eels can't really see. They just smell. So they smelled those lobsters.
Professional divers Rudy
Yeah, eels
Smith
are
and
pretty
Scott
much
Schindler
blind.
are hunting for lobsters off the coast of Oahu. After entering an underwater cave, a mysterious voice urges them to leave. Disregarding the warning, they're confronted by a huge moray eel.
That doesn't
The
bother
ensuing
me,
struggle leaves them trapped in the cave with zero visibility and running out of air.
I didn't know where I was. I didn't know up from down, left from right. I couldn't see my partner. I couldn't see with my light. It would give me no sense of direction. All I could see was the cloud of particles suspended in front
This
of my
is all
mask.
true, by the way.
I started to panic. I didn't know if the eel was going to attack
Good
me,
statement.
bite me.
Legit.
I couldn't find my way out. I started bouncing off the walls looking for the opening to the cave.
Absolutely.
He became more desperate with every passing moment. The situation looked hopeless.
I actually thought that there was no way I was getting out of that cave. My worst nightmare, which would have been to be trapped in a cave without air, had come true. I knew I was going to die. I knew suffocation was not a pleasant way to die, and here I was in a cave getting ready to suffocate.
Well,
As
He's
Rudy
being honest.
inhaled the last fumes of oxygen from his scuba tank, he gave up hope of surviving.
he
At
sucked
that
it
very
dry.
moment, he felt something take hold of his body.
Someone grabbed me from behind and began guiding my body, and that feeling was a feeling of safety, a feeling of being embraced and held and being okay, and I just totally relaxed and went limp, and that someone took me out of the cave.
Suddenly, Rudy found himself in clear water outside the cave entrance with his scuba tank
What?
on his back.
I see you looking down. I'm confused that somebody rescued him. I'm seeing you doing that. I'm confused right now. I'm actually pausing because I'm confused on your reaction. Somebody rescued him. That's what they're going to tell us? Maybe it was Ed. I don't know. I don't know what you're looking down at.
That is way more believable, I think, that it was Ed.
Okay, I'm not following
All
you.
right, well, just
God was nowhere in sight.
I don't know how I got out of that cave with my equipment on. I don't know.
Wow.
He tried re-entering the cave to rescue Scott, but couldn't fit through the narrow opening with his tank on.
I thought he had no air.
His air gauge showed he had no air left. Reluctantly, he returned to the surface for more air.
Okay.
That was the most gut-wrenching decision I've ever made in my life. The number one first priority to a Navy diver is never leave your buddy.
Rudy ascended, not having time to decompress along the way. He hurriedly changed his air tank and grabbed a spare tank of air for his friend. But Scott surfaced before he could get back into the water.
Wow.
He spit his regulator out, he gasped for a breath of air, and just hung on the side of the boat for a little bit. He looked like he was already dead. In fact, I thought he might have gotten the bends and been sick.
Once Scott recovered enough to talk, they marveled over the fact that they both had risen to the surface without pausing to decompress.
We should have been perhaps paralyzed, or worse, brain dead. And yet we were alive without any symptoms.
But that was just one remarkable event among many. Who had voiced the two warnings that Rudy heard? What mysterious force had pulled Rudy from the cave? And how had he made it out through that narrow entrance wearing a scuba tank?
Yeah.
It turned out that Scott had a similar experience leaving the cave.
When Scott got in the boat, he asked me how I had gotten him out of the cave. I told Scott that I hadn't got him out of the cave, that I thought he had gotten me out of the cave.
The same mysterious force had pulled them both from the
this
cave
is-
and had enabled them to return to the surface unharmed.
They're
It's my belief
higher
that
power.
God
Yeah.
moved in and interceded in my behalf,
Stop it.
saved me for a purpose that I've yet to discover.
It was an experience that would transform Rudy's life.
Wow.
It was a divine moment. I was being given a second chance.
Could
It
have been.
was something that touched my life and has continued to touch my life ever since it happened. So, to me, it's a miracle.
Wow. I'll pause it.
I kind of like that. And let me explain. First of all, who am I to say that his God, a higher power, didn't intervene? Who am I to say? And what it really does, my reaction here is that that's a very humble response. That's a very, I am not great. I wasn't capable of doing this. Look how amazing we are. Something more helped us. We would not have been able to take care of ourselves. So a God, a higher power, intervened because I'm not an ego guy and saying, look how great I am. We got out of this no-viz cave during a panic with a no-mount exit.
Right.
And it's a very humble way of speaking. And there is higher powers. I don't think that's a terrible way to describe his situation. I've described seeing those caves with Brian in the Abacos as a spiritual feeling when I was inside of them.
No, I can see your point, and I think that I'm not really a religious person. I'm more of a, I would say a realist. And when I watched this video, obviously my first reaction was obviously they made this up. They didn't have an emergency. They just got their lobster and got out or whatever. They made this story up. It was cool. But I do think that based on what you just said, this is 100% true. I feel that if they were trying to make a story, they would go for the Donald Cerrone route. They would go for the, we're Navy divers. We don't leave anyone behind. I was out of air, but I held my breath. I took my tank out, left it out, held my breath, went in, took this guy out. I told him to take his thing out, and we use that telepathic communication that we learn in the Navy. And I pulled him out of there without air, and we made it back to the boat. I think that the story, if they were making it up, I think that it would have been differently. I think there would have been a lot more heroism.
Ego.
I was badass. I grabbed the knife and killed the eel, and we had eel for dinner. You know what I'm saying? Like
don't say
I,
that.
I feel that.
Feel bad for the eel now.
Well, but that, you know what I'm saying? Like my first thought was they made this whole thing up. But now that you mentioned that, I feel that if they were gonna make it up, it would have been a different story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that these guys believe that something rescued them. I think they believe that.
I do too.
I don't think it happened, obviously. I think there's another explanation for it. But I do think they believe that something rescued them.
And sometimes your brain takes over
Right.
in these situations where you're in a panic, but there is maybe a rational side kicked in,
For sure.
and in their mind, they heard rational thoughts of what to do. And if they believe that a higher power intervened, so be it.
Yeah.
Is there a higher power? Are we here for this video to determine and say our beliefs and all of that?
No.
I don't think that's the purpose. I just believe that if that's what they needed to help them calm down under there and their brain hear some things that got them out, maybe that is the higher power.
No, and ultimately, I don't know what happened. I mean, I'm not here to say like I know for sure it wasn't like whatever. Like I'm saying I don't know what happened. I mean, for me, if I had to guess, I would say, like in sea caves, there's tides that go in and out. Maybe one of those like pull him out of the cave, and like one of those tides to just pull him out, and next thing they knew, they were out of the cave. Oh, I'm out, and now I can't get back in. Whatever. Yeah, I don't know. There's a ton of reasons why they could have found themselves out, but ultimately, I don't really know how they made it out.
And they're not doing this. You can tell they're not doing this to try to convince everybody. Wow, a higher power, a God is in the world. They're not doing that. They're just this is my reaction. They're just he believes it had to be. I had to have help. This had to have happened.
Yeah.
We should have been bent. I don't know their deco profile. Did they really go into deco, or did they just miss their safety stop? We don't know this stuff.
It
seems like it was
minutes,
shallow.
dude.
It's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They probably were not in a deco situation.
Right.
They didn't do a safety stop, but we know that a safety stop is just an added layer of cushion. Most people aren't going to get bent if they missed a safety stop.
Yeah,
so
calling it a miracle.
So that part, I was like, yeah, you probably weren't going to be bent. You probably weren't. I think he said my lungs could have exploded or something like this.
Right.
So
You cough up your lungs.
I actually like it. I actually like his
It's a cool
attitude.
story.
I think he's humble.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be humble if we get into a bad situation and we do get out of it. You know what? It's okay to say, oof, that was a miracle, because it may keep you a little more conservative in the future. That's what I think.
What made me think that it really happened is his description of what happened when he lost visibility inside that thing.
Very accurate.
That was very accurate. That's really how it works. You can't see anything. You don't know what's up, what's down. Your light doesn't work. You start bumping into stuff. That's exactly how it works.
So would you ever recommend, but
legit.
watching this video, that you and I go diving with a half a tank and not all the proper gear at all times? I mean, honestly, you see how quickly things can go bad?
Yeah,
Never. That's the learning message here.
Yeah.
Never violate those rules.
And by the way, you can see this live. I'm going to link a video to somebody who got lost at Orange Grove, and you can see it because he filmed the dive where he gets lost and how visibility starts getting really bad. And
wasn't there another video you wanted to tell folks to watch after this one that you thought would be logical?
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to link to that in a second. But again, the Orange Grove video, it's pretty bad. No, not a miracle. I wouldn't call this one a miracle, but 5 rules of cave diving, for sure. Have a line, for sure. But
yes.
Yeah, pretty good video.
Yeah,
I
thought
thought
it was
of
good.
you.
I thought it was good, and I have no problem thinking that there are miracles in the world. Call me naive or call me foolish. I think it's okay to believe in a higher power. That's all I'm saying. I'm not on this to convince anybody of what to believe. I just don't think it's a bad thing to believe that there's something bigger than me that may intervene at times in the world. I don't think that's such a bad thing. That's all I'm saying.
Cool.
In a very gentle way.
I hope everyone watching enjoy this video. And if this is not the first video you're watching, like if this is like second, third, whatever in a row, I hope you tune into this next one. I'm putting one right here. Just click on this one. Keep watching. Keep the binge going. That's what I'm saying.
Thanks, everybody.
See you in the next one.